Welcome to the Sandwich Generation podcast, a resource for adults balancing the dual responsibilities of raising children and caring for aging parents. Whether you're helping your parents downsize, explore real estate options, navigating caregiving, or looking for practical advice to help your family thrive, this is the place for you. Join us as we bring you expert insights, heartfelt stories, and actionable items to support you and your family within this unique generation.
Hey there, welcome to the Sandwich Generation. I am one of your co-hosts, Lisa Treadwell.
And I'm Sara McCord. Welcome. We're going to chat today a little bit about our personal stories and background, just to kind of introduce ourselves to this new podcast world. So I think, we are going to have Lisa share about how this all came to fruition, her kind of background about personal life as well as work life, and just learn a bit more about Lisa. So want to just start off giving us a little rundown about you, and then we'll dive into some other questions?
Yeah, let's do it. So first, it's like Animal Farm over here. Like I told you, I have 15 animals and counting. So if you hear toenails on the ground, it's a dog or a cat, most likely. So I'm sort of like almost an empty nester. My son is 19. He's doing the electrical apprenticeship, and I'm very proud of him. He did one semester college, decided to do the electrical apprenticeship, and he's doing great. So he lives with his stepbrother, and they're local. I see him regularly, which is good. I'm glad. And then I have a daughter who's 15. She's a freshman at North Central, and getting ready to drive. So that's going to be fun. And then my 15 animals, 10 hens, 3 dogs, and 2 kittens. The kittens are like having toddlers. So those were my daughter's Christmas present that she's been bugging me about for a really long time. So that's me. I live in Indianapolis. I love living here. We have a great neighborhood. And I promise you, just because I live south of 96th Street, it is a safe neighborhood. If you're local, you know what that means. If you know, you know, right? It's a wonderful neighborhood. We've got lots of kids, 1960s. You know, this was like the original suburbs of Indianapolis. So we like it. I have been a real estate agent since 2007. I actually started working for a builder first, and I was selling in a model home. I would meet lots of realtors, and one day I just thought, geez, these realtors are making a lot of money, and I'm doing all the work, and I could be doing that. And it seems pretty easy. So I got my real estate license while I sat in the model home at the builder, took my state test, passed it on the first time, to note. Yeah, a lot of people don't pass on the first time for some reason. I'm hearing that more and more. But and then I joined a large brokerage, worked on a team for about 6 months, realized I wanted a team of my own. So that's how India Real Estate Experts actually started. It was my own team within a big brokerage. I switched to a couple of different big brokerages, and before actually going out on our own and owning my own brokerage. But in between I had a real estate coach, and my daughter was an infant at the time, and I was just sort of lamenting about how to balance my personal life and my work life. You know, a lot of real estate agents work a lot of nights and weekends, and that's just not, that wasn't something I wanted to do because I did not want to be away from my kids. I like my kids. I like hanging out with them. So she said to me, Nikki Buckaloo, if you're watching, this is all you. Thank you so much. And you told me so. You can say that. I told you so. But she mentioned to me, have you ever thought about seniors real estate? And I was like, no, not really. Tell me more. So she told me a little bit about it. She was like, seniors, they like to meet on the hours that your kids are at school. They like to meet Monday through Friday, basically from the hours of 11 to about 3 or 4. They don't like to meet past that. They don't like to meet early, and they don't like to meet on the weekends. And I thought, well, wow, that sounds interesting.
Sounds good.
And we just kind of tabled it, fast forward a couple, I don't know, months or so. My grandma, Westover on my dad's side, found herself in a hospital and then in a skilled nursing community. And I had an aunt at the time who was local. Her health was also declining. She did not have the capacity to care for my grandma or to oversee or advocate for her. So my dad, who is still works, lived in Houston, Texas, still lives in Houston, Texas. He would come over and do what he could and then go back and then come over and go back. And I went down to Florida on one of those trips while he was there. And I wanted to take my daughter specifically because she was named after my grandma. Her name's Helen. I couldn't take her because my grandma had a virus so bad that they wouldn't let children in her room. When I got down there, I didn't understand too much about that. But when I got down there, it became clear to me she had a virus. She came from the hospital with the virus because she had bed sores so badly because she was sitting in her own excrement, basically. They weren't changing her. They weren't cleaning her. Yeah. And I knew nothing about senior care or skilled nursing facilities. We don't say the F word. We call them skilled nursing communities, but in that industry, they call them SNFs, skilled nursing facilities, which is a whole other podcast. But I got to talk to my grandma, and I took her down to the dining room. She ate, she sat there. I sat there just people watching. And I realized that this is a whole community. There was the class clown, this man who sat there just with a ornery smirk on his face, watching everybody, talking under his breath, talking smack about the food and like how it was cold and gross and whatever. There was a couple in there who had gotten married while they lived in the community. And then there was this busybody. We call these people Karens nowadays, but there was this busybody gal rolling around in her electric scooter over to everybody's table, getting into everybody's business. And I realized then this is a whole community of people. And so I went back, told my dad, you need to get a certified nurse assistant or somebody in here to change her pants. They need to change her clothes, clean her up. They need to look at her. You need to look at her and maybe even take pictures because you probably have a lawsuit on your hands. He didn't end up suing her, or suing the community or anything, but he did go in there, and I know it was very uncomfortable for him. This is his mother who raised him, but I inadvertently became this advocate for my grandma. And we had a moment. She understood what I was doing, and I know she appreciated it. I did eventually get my daughter down to see her and meet her. And then she told us to take the pictures down. She had pictures of my son and daughter on her bulletin board in front of her. She told her to take the pictures down and go home. And that's when she died. She died a week later after she met my daughter. So it was like she was waiting. So I came home and I called Nikki back up and said, all right, tell me more about this. And Nikki was developing a course at the time to certify real estate agents who wanted to specialize in helping seniors. I was in her first class. So it was much different back then than it is now. It's much more involved now. I don't know if I could get through it now. It's much more involved. No, I could get through it. But anyway, took her class and began just doing what I was learning in her class. And that's when I met you, Sara. I met a lot of great people in the industry, and I really liked them. And I liked serving seniors. And so that was back in 2010. It's 2024 right now. 2019, I added the downsizing services because I was going into people's houses and sort of telling them all the things they needed to do to sort, pack, move, declutter, clean, all this stuff. I was giving them more homework than what they already had, and they were already overwhelmed. So I was making them more overwhelmed, and they didn't mean to do that. So we added our downsizing services. And then 3 or 4 years ago, we left big brokerage. I started my own brokerage, Indie Real Estate Experts, and we exclusively specialize in helping seniors. And the more we've leaned into that niche, and people start to know us as the weird people who like to work with seniors whose houses are full of all this stuff and deferred maintenance and all of that, the more our business has grown. So I get confirmation all the time that we're doing the right thing. It's one thing to be able to have a career that you can still spend a lot of time with your family. You can make your own schedule. It's a whole other thing when you can have that and also help people who need our help. And it's just, I get cold chills whenever I talk about it. It's just, I love it. So that's me, 15 animals, 2 kids, and yeah.
Tell me, since you've done real estate on both like the normal typical side of things versus working mainly with seniors, what are the differences and what do you find most rewarding about working with the older folks, the older population?
That's a great question. I've worked with first-time home buyers. I've worked with people who were doing short sales back in 2008 and 9 when everybody was, losing their heads on their houses. Yeah. I've worked with move-up buyers and sellers. And working with seniors is the most rewarding by far. They need us so much. The trust that they put in us to help them and their adult children. It just feels good. It feels like we're really helping somebody who needs our help. I'm a rescuer, and there's some people that you shouldn't try to rescue. Maybe, yeah. There's just some people you shouldn't try to rescue, and the seniors, though, it just allows me to use that and sort of lean into maybe some natural strengths that I have. So it's rewarding, and that's I think that might be the difference. It's more rewarding than even more rewarding than first-time home buyers. First-time home buyers are really rewarding too, but this is even more than that. So, yeah.
Awesome. Let's see. I don't have any other questions. You gave us a lot of the background that I was hoping for.
Yeah.
And you said when did you start? How long have you been doing this now?
I started in 2007. It's 2024 now. So a really long dang time.
2025. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Why do I keep saying 2024? I think I said that more than once now. Oh my gosh.
Well, we're just in the
it's 2025 now.
You get a pass in the first
passes.
month of the year, I say. So
yeah. So, all right. So we're going to flip the script and go to you now, because you have actually an extensive background in seniors real estate, or not seniors real estate, but just in the senior industry in general. So tell us all about it. Tell us about your family, all of that.
Sure. Well, I am married to Adam. We will have been married 19 years this August, which feels absolutely insane to me because I'm like 19, like we're only like 25. I mean, how could that be possible? But
of course.
Oh gosh, time flies when you're having fun. So yeah, almost 19 years we've been married. We have 3 kids. I have my daughter, Madeline, who is 15, almost 16. She's a sophomore. And then I have twin boys who are 11, almost 12. They're in the 6th grade, Carter and Colton. And they are, I would say, part of the reason that this career works really well for me. Just mainly because when someone says to you, hey, I know you have a 3-year-old about to be 4 and here's 2 more babies. you have to get really organized and figure out what you actually need in your house versus don't need in your house. And so I would say that was probably when my like organizational decluttering kind of madness started. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I do not have 15 pets, but we do have 2 dogs, 2 fish, and a leopard gecko. So there you go. So that's a little bit about me personally.
I didn't know you
Yeah,
had those animals. So, hey, I learned something about you.
yeah.
Also, if you see me
Only
moving
one.
around here, I'm just having a little bit of technical issues, but we're going to keep filming because I don't want to edit it
Okay.
out. And it is just is what it is. So, yeah,
Yep, that's
nice.
right. Okay. So gosh, where was I? That's the a little bit about me personally. I during college actually started working in a outpatient physical therapy clinic. And while I was working in that clinic, I found myself gravitating towards the older folks, the patients that were there because they had had knee replacements, hip replacements, maybe had taken a fall and just needed some strength training to get their strength back, or had been in the hospital and needed to get strength back. So I found myself, when those patients would come in, I would spend a little bit more time talking with the older folks, and they just were so fun for me. I loved hearing about their stories, their background, what they did for work, their family that they raised. Just liked hearing about their life and talking with them. And they were appreciative of the conversation I found. So I'd say that's probably where my journey with seniors kind of started. I don't know. Even prior to that, though, I lived next door to my grandparents. And so, when I was in high school, I would take my grandpa to the grocery store and to get his lottery tickets every week. So just, have kind of always enjoyed that older senior population. That's been really part of my whole life. So fast forward, I started, I want to say in 2006, 2005. 2006, working in a senior community in a suburb of Indianapolis in Carmel. It was what they call a CCRC, so a continuing care retirement community. What that means is there's
Wait,
different
say that
levels.
again.
A
I
CCRC,
I think it's
continuing care
interesting. I was
retirement
going to
community.
I think it's interesting where people put the emphasis on CCRC. So you say,
Yeah.
this is just a side note, CCRC. You say it like that. I say CCRC. Do I put the emphasis on the R?
I don't know. I've never
You
really
go.
paid attention.
You go. Oh, totally side note. CCRC or CCRC. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue.
Anyhow, wherever you want to put the emphasis is
Right.
fine, I think. Yeah.
And what does that mean? What is a CCRC?
So continuing care retirement community. So what that means is there's different levels of care within the community or within the community campus. So people are there for independent living, assisted living, memory care, um, rehab or skilled nursing, and long-term care. So you
We're
have
going to
all the
get
different
into more of that
levels.
later.
Yep, and that will definitely be a few podcasts, I would imagine, where we will talk about those different types of care, what they mean, who pays for what, all of that. So anyhow, I was in sales and marketing in a community like that for 7.5 years. And actually until I had my twins. And then I took a little bit of time off. But in working in that community, I developed a lot of great relationships with people that were looking at senior community, deciding whether they wanted to move to a community like that, leave their house that they had been in for, 40, 50 years, and make that transition. Some of them were making those decisions themselves. Some were making them because family had kind of pushed them to make that choice. And others were there completely against their will and did not want to be there at all. So, you kind of get all sorts. But in working in that community, it just continued my passion of working with seniors. I loved working with them. I loved getting to know them, having them feel like part of my family, and just saw the struggles that they go through in trying to make those decisions or decide whether that was if they wanted to go to independent living, assisted living. Oftentimes people were coming in, going directly or going into independent living when they really probably needed to go directly to assisted living, because we all see ourselves, in better shape than what we actually are. So just really enjoyed working with the seniors and how that process affected them, and the challenges that it brought on. After I had my boys, I took a little bit of time off and went back to work part-time to begin with, working for a home health care company that's here in Indianapolis. And that was a lot of the things very similar to working in a community setting, but also very different, because now I'm actually sitting in their home, in their environment, and I was still in sales and marketing. And after a few months, I ended up going back full time, just because that's what I liked to do. I like to work, and so that was definitely a whole different experience, but also a lot of the same things that I was seeing. People living in their homes where they're only utilizing a very small portion of their home because they can't navigate to different parts of the home anymore. They can't go up and down the stairs. They are, living surrounded by stuff that they have accumulated for years.
Or animal feces.
Animal things. The stories I could tell you, which I'm sure I will.
We will. We'll get into it.
There just is a love and a heartbreak and a passion to help people that need that help. And that's where my heart has lied. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. So as I was working in that senior community, I also decided to get my real estate license in 2010. I had just had my daughter, and I think in my brain had that maybe I should do real estate, because then maybe I could work when I wanted to work.
Have a great life.
Yeah.
Because real estate's so easy, right?
Yeah, it's just easy peasy. Yeah. But
Not
if you
really.
think back to 2010 and what was happening in the housing industry, it was not a good time to get into the real estate industry. So, so I did a little bit, but not much. I worked for a large brokerage under my aunt and uncle's team, actually, and I learned a lot from them.
I'm so surprised our paths didn't cross back then.
I know.
It's so weird, because
we were both with Keller Williams, right?
Yeah. Are we allowed to say that on here? I think so. But I think we were saying, I don't know. Why not? We make the rules of this podcast. No, I think we were actually at the same office at the time, because I bounced around back and forth from 2 different offices. So it's so crazy that our paths did not cross then. But
no,
shortly after they did.
Shortly after, yeah. So that just never became what I thought it would. But yes, so then it was just shortly after that I met Lisa. We were part of a networking group that worked, focused on seniors. I was still working with the senior community at that time. You were in real estate, and we just had a small group where we met monthly and just, kind of bonded and relied on each other and got to know each other and helped each other out. And so that was probably 2010, I would say, somewhere along that line that I first met you. While I was working for the home health care company, I became a sponsor the home healthcare company became a sponsor of the Indie Senior Living Series events. And our role, my role with that was just to be there for every event. And I brought the coffee and pastries and donuts and fruit and that kind of stuff
You
for
brought
the
the
event.
goods.
Yep. And that was fun. I mean, I enjoyed that from those events. I learned something myself at every event, and did that for, I don't know, what, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, probably more than that, because what year did you start?
That would have been
2011 or 12.
Yeah, well, I don't think I was there at the beginning. I'd say like 14, maybe.
Math here. Yeah, because we're on year 10 of doing them. So yeah, it was 2014, because this is year 10. Yeah, it was 2014.
Okay. So I became a sponsor for the Indie Senior Living Series events. And just like I said, I learned something every month at those events, got to mingle with the folks that were attending, and made it all the way through 2020 working in the home healthcare industry, and was experiencing a lot of burnout. Wanted more time with my kids. I wanted to be able to take them to school and pick them up from school and have the flexibility to kind of do what I wanted to do.
When I wanted to do it.
Yeah, there you go. But I just wanted more time that I felt like I was in control of. So I started chatting with Lisa about, hey, I don't know if you know, but I have this background in real estate and I love seniors. Like, this kind of seems like a no-brainer. And I'll never forget the day, like, we had been chatting about it, and I will never forget the day I was sitting in my car in front of a hospital, about to go in to meet with a case manager at the hospital about a patient that was going to be, needing services. And I got a phone call from my office about just a caregiver breakdown situation that had happened for a client, a patient. And it was my breaking point. I lost it. And I called you and I was like, I'm doing it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to join you. I'm going to do this. I can't handle what I'm doing anymore. And that's how this started. So I actually had to redo my real estate license because I had let it expire.
Oh.
So I had to do the class again.
You're double educated in real estate.
Yeah, passed for the second time on the first try. Just make that known. And
I know, we're like bragging, humble brag.
Yeah. And started working with, Lisa and the downsizing clients, and it's history ever since. And I've enjoyed every second of it, and just the process of, where these clients and their families become our family, it feels like. We spend a lot of time with them, and it's just been a joy. So here we are 4 years later. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 3 points. Number 1, I didn't know all the details of your story, so that was fun to learn. Number 2, this is proof on camera that I did not recruit you away from your company.
There you go. I left willingly.
I'm not going to name names, but yeah. And one thing I remember you saying to me, and I think this is important for people to hear and just to remember and say out loud. One thing I remember you said was, I am not in charge of the delivery of the things that I'm promising. So I can make all of these promises, but I'm dependent on my company delivering. And I hate telling people things are going to be this way. I set the expectations and then they're not.
They're not.
And yeah. And so this allows us to be in charge. We get to set the expectations. So when we're telling our potential real estate and downsizing clients, here's how things are going to go, but also we're in charge of how things actually go. Right. And so I just remember you saying that, and I can't imagine working in marketing for a senior community, for home care, home health, because you're so dependent on other people for the delivery of the promises that you've made. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So cool. Well, that's our stories. Anything else? Did we miss anything?
No, I think that's pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. So you mentioned Indie Senior Living Series. This is an event that we've been doing for 10 years now. We're sort of changing the format of things now because we've added this wonderful podcast, The Sandwich Generation, so that we could reach adult children. So we're reaching adult children here every week with the podcast, and we're reaching seniors themselves with the Indie Senior Living Series, which is now, it used to be a monthly event. Now it's a quarterly event. They're all, the podcast and the Indie Senior Living Series are education based. They're educational in nature, and the Indie Senior Living Series is sort of panel in format. This podcast is podcast format. So it might be you and I just talking about certain topics, telling stories. It might be us interviewing past clients. We got some clients who volunteered to, sort of say how things went on their side of things with our help. And then we've got some industry experts who we'll be interviewing too. So that's going to be fun. And we hope that everybody tunes in, shares, likes, comments, sends us questions and feedback that we can talk about on the podcast. And looking forward to a great 2025 with this podcast. I got the year right this time.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, we'll see you guys later.
All right. Bye.